WorldNet Daily had a story about Obama impeachment papers by Representative Walter Jones. Now, you've heard about this, right? Somebody's pushing for the impeachment of the president. No, wait, you haven't heard about this? Oh, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Now, let me cover what I was hinting at in the last segment first, and then we're going to get to how this complacency is killing us. There are a lot of Ron Paul supporters out there, and Ron Paul is going for the delegates. It's very strategically smart. It is a genius move. After last election cycle, it was very, very obvious that Ron Paul had active supporters, not just supporters who are like, oh, yeah, you know, I'll vote for somebody, but active supporters that paint their cars and get tattoos and write songs and, you know, hey, we got to support Ron Paul. So this time around, his strategists had a very great move on their part where they urged people to become delegates. And we had guests on this show who are presidents of GOP regions that said, yeah, the reason I joined the GOP in the first place was to support Ron Paul, and now they're actually running a county or running the state GOP or whatever the case may be. So they're doing a very great job on getting the delegates. And obviously this fight's not going anywhere. Gingrich is helping because he's so arrogant he refuses to quit. He's not going to win anything, but he refuses to quit. So he's pulling votes away from Santorum. Santorum is saying, Gingrich, just get out of the way. Let's make this a two-man race between me and Romney. I'll beat Romney, and hallelujah, everybody will be happy. Well, notice how they said a two-man race. They completely forgot to mention and include Ron Paul. Now, Ron Paul's the guy that all of the candidates have always acknowledged, well, if you want to know about the Constitution, then you better ask Ron Paul. And there were supporters of the other candidates who started to think, well, you know what, the Constitution really isn't that important anymore. Matter of fact, one of the candidates himself, Newt Gingrich, wrote a foreword to a book claiming the exact same thing. Now, where does this leave us with Ron Paul? If we do go into an open convention, and we're going on delegates, and these states are going to start having their delegate counts soon, the state parties are going to have their state convention soon, we're going to see how this delegate thing plays out. If the delegate thing plays out in Ron Paul's favor, where Ron Paul wins the most delegates and therefore is the nominee, and of course he has to get past a certain number, but if he accomplishes that feat, then he's in a great position. The strategy worked. The strategy worked to go after delegates. But what if he doesn't? Did the strategy fail? No. No, and here's the genius behind this, and I don't know if they've realized it. I don't know if anybody's talking about it. I haven't heard it. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the first time I'm going to hear it, as I say it to you, and the first time you're going to hear it. If Ron Paul fights this delegate fight and then loses, it's not over. Matter of fact, he's positioned himself in such a way that he could actually walk away with this. And I know what I'm about to say, what's about to come out of my mouth would be laughed upon by many of conservative pundits in the past. However, I'm going to lay out the case, and it's going to make sense. You ready? If Ron Paul loses, then he has set himself up for a third-party victory. What? What? A third party? Well, Josh, they would never let that happen. I mean, didn't Jesse Ventura himself say that a third party would never be able to win because the debate process has been taken away from the League of Women Voters and placed in the hands of the Presidential Election Committee? Yes. But he's circumventing that right now. See, this is the hidden treasure here. He's not running as a third-party candidate right now. He's going to go all the way to the convention running as a Republican. The problem with previous third-party candidates was they ran as third-party candidates already. He's not. He's running as a Republican. And he's going to continue running as a Republican until all the states are over. Till the convention itself happens. And at the convention, he's going to come out as either A, the GOP nominee, or B, the best positioned third-party candidate any of us have ever seen in our lifetime. Because what do we know about Ron Paul? He has support of the people within the GOP delegation running up to this campaign. So now his supporters, which are running the Republican Party, are not going to be promoting the Republican Party. Oh, it's genius. He is lining up a bunch of people inside the Republican Party who are not going to follow along with the Republican nominee, regardless of who the Republican nominee is. That is huge. That is something that every media outlet, when they talk about politics, should be talking about right now. Because just because he loses doesn't mean they're going to support the next guy. And that's the difference here. The difference is, in the past, the Republicans and the Democrats, too, just roll over and support whoever the nominee happens to be. Well, the thing about Ron Paul supporters, those delegates, those county board members of the GOP, those state members of the GOP, they're not going to switch loyalty. They're not going to say, oh, well, Ron Paul won. Now it's time to get behind Romney so Romney can beat Obama, like we've done over and over and over again in the past. No, no, no. They're going to stay loyal to their principles, and what that means, they're going to stay loyal to their candidate. So he's now going to pull away from the GOP a large swath of GOP voters, a large swath of the new GOP establishment. In addition to that, that now opens him up for the garnishment of all the Democrats who are fed up with Obama. Like Ron Paul himself pointed out in the past, he has beaten Obama. He was the first one to beat Obama, and by the largest number in the polls, to beat Obama in a national election. Because Obama's voters are fed up with him too, but they just won't swallow the pill and vote GOP. So they'll continue to support Obama unless there's an option for them not to go GOP and still get rid of Obama. Now that is amazing. That is something that we could see lived out right now this year. And you better bet that the GOP establishment is waking up to this fact. They've probably woken up to this probably about a week ago when they started really looking at the delegate count, and they started saying, wait, seriously? So all these places that are having caucuses and primaries and then their local GOP meetings where they vote in new officers, you're telling me that Ron Paul supporters are filling up these offices and these delegate spots? Yes. Well, it doesn't take a military strategical genius to lay out the map and say, wait a second, Vern, we have a problem here. This guy, Ron Paul, is collecting all of these delegates, and if he leaves, he's going to take them with him, which is going to leave an empty GOP. It doesn't matter if Romney pulls better than Barack Obama if the GOP isn't there to support him. You understand that, right? I mean, this is huge. This is political, just like Super Bowl events here. I mean, normally what happens is all the delegates roll over and just support whoever the establishment wants to support. Oh, we're going to run McCain. McCain's a great example. Everybody didn't like McCain. Nobody liked him. Everybody thought, wow, this is the anti-GOP candidate. But as soon as he quote unquote won the nomination, then everybody fell right in line, and all the delegates and all the offices and all the county and state level GOP parties, they all started, okay, well, we have to promote our guy. But it's changed. Now, if Ron Paul doesn't get this nomination, it creates a huge hollow void within the GOP establishment from the local level all the way up to the federal level. And you know for a fact that Axelrod over on Obama's camp knows this too and sees it as a threat. Because it is a threat. Initially, they're going to see it as an opportunity. They're going to hear this show and they're going to say, oh my gosh, Josh is a political genius. He's right. These people are going to stay loyal to Paul anyway. They're not going to vote for the GOP candidate. So initially, they're going to think, well, this is a hands-down victory for Barack Obama because now we have a GOP that's only half there, regardless of the numbers. But it's not true. What's true is if Ron leaves and runs third party, he takes the GOP with him.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
All right, so I knew that last segment would get a lot of activity, and it did. We got a lot of emails. If you're not following us on Twitter or Facebook, you should do so because you can send us messages in between the breaks. And if I have time, I like to respond to some, but I definitely read them. And we got a lot of feedback. Oh, my gosh, Josh. Oh, my gosh, you're absolutely right. What you just said was genius. I never thought about it. Nobody else in the media is talking about it. Nowhere, anywhere. Why aren't you running a campaign someplace? Because they can't afford me. But anyway, you're absolutely right in your assessment. It is political genius, but it's not me. I'm just pointing out what the Ron Paul campaign has available to them. So let me run it by you again, because some people came in the studio and they said, wait. I get it, but I don't get it. So let me explain it to you again. Right now, Ron Paul is doing very, very well with delegates. And for a long time now, people have been laughing it off. Oh, yeah, let him get some delegates, blah, 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 blah. And we're just going to let our establishment fools take over the nomination when it comes time to do so. Well, what they started noticing is that people who are becoming the delegates, who are becoming state chairmen, who are becoming county chairmen, who are becoming representatives within inside the establishment are now Ron Paul supporters. Ron Paul supporters are taking over those offices, taking over those positions, taking over those counties, those states, those delegation posts. Which leaves a very interesting situation. Because unlike in any of our pasts, those delegates, those office holders are not going to remain party loyal. They're going to remain principle loyal. And when they remain principle loyal, it creates a very interesting, fragile situation. And here's the situation as it plays out. We are going to go into the convention without a nominee. And that's just the way it's looking. There's not enough space and time left for Romney to actually secure this thing decidedly. So odds are we're going to go into this convention without a nominee. Now, when we get there, all these states are already going to have had their state parties, conferences. And we're going to know if Romney has got the tally to make it, or if Ron Paul has staged an upset with all these delegates that he's gaining, and he has staged a victory for himself. Odds are, again, that that's probably not going to happen. And as many people are predicting now, that we're going to go into the convention without a nominee. At that point, some very interesting things are going to play out. Either Ron Paul gets the victory, or the GOP loses the nomination. And let me explain why. Those people who are Ron Paul supporters who are going to remain with principle are not going to roll over and just support Santorum, Romney, or Gingrich. It's not going to happen. Which leaves a very interesting situation where if Ron Paul runs as a third-party candidate, he could be the first third-party candidate in modern history to actually stage a victory. The reason why it could be a victory, and this shouldn't be laughed upon the media, is because if he did this and ran as a third-party candidate, he's going to pull away from the GOP a lot of the very GOP establishment itself. Yes. Not only that, it's going to pull a lot of Democrat voters who are just sick and disgusted and making websites like Democrats Against Obama. I mean, even other radio show hosts like Stephanie Miller have come out and said, you know what, if you weren't a Republican, I'd vote for you. Well, if he's not running as a Republican, guess what? He's open to gain those votes. And as Ron Paul himself has pointed out, on national polls, he beats Obama anyway. So there's going to be a hollow GOP that's not going to have a leg to stand on in getting their candidate in office. So worst case scenario, Ron Paul supporters are not going to compromise on their principles and values. So the establishment that thinks it's going to present Romney as a victor is going to only be half there. It's going to be half-hearted. So Romney loses to Obama, and Obama continues on as president. Best case scenario, Ron Paul gets the nomination in the GOP and wins as the Republican nominee. Becomes the next president. Alternative best case scenario, Ron Paul leaves the GOP, takes all those people who were delegates and all those people who were office holders for the GOP with him. The GOP does not stand a chance winning in November. Initially, the Barack Obama campaign is going to see that as a victory because now the GOP is cut down and it's practically impossible. Matter of fact, what we're seeing right now, and nobody wants to talk about because nobody's politically astute enough, which is why you have to tune into this show, nobody's politically astute enough to realize what Ron Paul is doing right now is securing a Mitt Romney defeat. The GOP has to wake up to this. There's either going to be a GOP defeat of Mitt Romney or Ron Paul is president. Really what it boils down to is we now have two choices. Oh, this is gold. Either Barack Obama is going to be president again or Ron Paul is going to be president. It will not be Mitt Romney. The reason why it will not be Mitt Romney without some illegal voter fraud happening is because the GOP has lost position. The GOP has been infiltrated by freedom-loving Ron Paul supporters who are not going to vote for Mitt Romney, which means right now, as it stands, Romney has lost this nomination. He just doesn't realize it yet. The media is not reporting on it yet. But with the way that Ron Paul has taken over the operation of the GOP in so many counties and states, it's no longer viable for Mitt Romney to continue. This is very good news for people who love freedom, for people who love a secure America, for people who love Israel. It's good news for people who want liberty. Because the movement is working then. But we can't stop there. We just can't stop it. Okay, well, then must have worked. No, we have to continue. It has to get bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And we have to get people politically astute enough to realize what's going on faster than the opposition is going to catch up. Because after this show goes out today, there's going to be campaign managers on both sides of this aisle going, oh my goodness, Josh is absolutely right. The rest of the people in the media missed it. We better do something to fix it. So this broadcast is a blessing and a curse. It's a curse if you, the listener, don't do something about it. It's a blessing if this has woken you up to what's really possible. And again, like I said, nobody's talking about this. So we have to get out there. We have to start supporting the values, not the candidates. And that's why this is working. Because the people who are voting for Ron Paul really aren't voting for Ron Paul. They're voting for the values that Ron Paul represents. The people who are dumb enough to vote for Romney or Santorum have willingly given up their values. They've willingly given up their Christian beliefs. They've willingly given up their social conservatism. They've willingly given up their economic conservative values in order to vote for a candidate who they believe is most likely to defeat Barack Obama in November. With that, they're already defeated. They defeated themselves in their heart. They're no longer man enough or woman enough to stand up. Which means just get out of the way because the march of freedom must continue. We'll be back right after this. Want to be the smartest person you know? Then keep listening. This is the Josh Tully Show on GCN Radio Network.